Today's storyline is Batman Eternal. Way back in the 2012 era, 2013, there was a weekly storyline involving Batman known as Batman Eternal, and it was incredible, and it's one of my all-time favorite Batman storylines. This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite comic books, I break them down into an audio drama, and the purpose of this is to allow you to understand what is going on in the world of comics. Hopefully this will start you off and you can go buy your own comics for your collection. Anyway, let's get into the story.
We begin at the end, with the city in flames. Gotham has lost. Batman is unmasked and strapped to the bat signal. I have taken everything from you, piece by piece. Watch, Bruce, as you lose everything. Things begin with the arrival of Jason Baird, the newest lieutenant at the Gotham City Police Department. Harvey welcomes him at the train station, and Baird asks where Gordon is. The man is a legend, and he was hoping to meet him. But Gordon is currently pinned down fighting the animals that roam the streets of Gotham. That is until Batman leaps into the scene, taking out Professor Pig's guns before he can do any more harm with them. As Pig runs off into the subways, Batman stands there with his friend, Gordon, and the two of them head deeper into the subway to try and stop Pig's gang. As they run down into the subways, they split up, with Gordon taking out the thugs and Batman running after Professor Pig himself. He quickly catches up to Pig and he beats his face in, but before he can do anything serious, an interesting call comes in from Alfred. Sir, you might want to catch up with Gordon. He is chasing a suspect onto active subway lines, and there are trains coming from both sides. Gordon has in fact cornered a man there. With civilians watching, Gordon demands that the thug drop his gun, and the man tells Gordon, "I'm not holding no gun!" That's crazy. Gordon can see the gun. Just drop it, and this will all be over, he tells the man. But the man still doesn't understand. So Gordon fires a shot at him, hitting the power box behind the man. It explodes, shorting out the train tracks, turning off the ability to change tracks, and the ability to brake. Batman calls up Alfred as he's running over there. Shut down all the power! I don't care how many buildings you need to turn off! But Batman's plan doesn't work, and Gordon sees the two trains coming straight at each other, and he repeatedly says to himself, no, 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 no! The conductor, she just calls up to the entire train car, and she apologizes to everyone on the train. Batman arrived just in time to pull Gordon off of the tracks, but no one was able to stop the two trains from slamming headlong into each other. Gordon was brought in that night for manslaughter, and the beginning of the end started. The wreck hit all of the news outlets. Everyone in the Bat family saw it. Barbara suited up as Batgirl. She couldn't believe that this was happening, and she would save her father. Harper Row was in shock. Jason felt that maybe it was time to return home from Hong Kong. Batwing had a feeling that he'd be needed. Batwoman decided that she would come in to give them all a hand. Tim Drake took a break from the Titans to rejoin the family. And while they were all en route to Gotham, Batman stepped up to Jim Gordon's cell. We're going to get you out, Jim. And Gordon asks him to step out of the shadow so that he can see Batman's face. How many people, Batman? I have to know. But Batman just looks at him and says nothing. That bad, huh? I need to know what you saw, Jim, Batman asks him. I swear he was holding a gun. I swear on it. But they showed me the footage. I shot an unarmed man and in the process killed so many innocent people. There has to be more to this. Let me get a blood sample, Batman says, taking Jim's hand. Maybe I just made a mistake, Batman. Maybe I saw something that wasn't there. I know that's not true, Jim, and you do too. I know you feel it. Batman takes off to inspect the footage of the subway, and he finds himself joined by Catwoman. While she's trying to get his mind off of the case because she's bored, he manages to realize who the man that Gordon shot at is. He's a thug for Carmine Falcone, and that means that Falcone has returned to Gotham. Catwoman reels back in shock, because Carmine and her have history that ended with her scarring his face last time. Elsewhere in Gotham, a young girl named Stephanie Brown is returning home, and she needs to get into the garage, but oddly, she's found that her father has locked it. So she sneaked into the side window to discover her father is in a costume surrounded by supervillains, and apparently is planning something. Then she finds herself knocked out. Back in the cells of the GCPD, Baird is asking Gordon how he's holding up. Gordon is his hero, and he doesn't like that he had to arrest him on day one. But Gordon assures him that he did the right thing. So Baird asks him. He's out there, isn't he? Batman is on the case. Over in the Batcave, Batman is trying to put all of this together. Professor Pig, the random thug, Carmine Falcone, and conveniently, Penguin is apparently moving shipments of weapons all over the city tonight. It's all coming together. He can see it. There's a gang war coming, and Gordon is trapped in the middle. All over Gotham, the elements begin to move faster and faster. Stephanie Brown wakes up with a gun pressed to her head from her father, and he begins to open fire on her, telling her that she was a mistake, and maybe he can get it right the second time. She flees from the house as quickly as possible, and she begins to run down the street. She'll be on the run for a bit, and we'll come back to her much later. While on the rest of Gotham, all of the gangs are getting more courageous because someone in the police station is canceling all of the calls to the police. The police have no idea what's going on. To make matters worse, the new commissioner, Ford, has decided to send the entire GCPD after the vigilante known as Batman, and Commissioner Gordon has been sentenced to Blackgate Prison without parole. While Batman does his own investigation trying to get answers out of Carmine, Batgirl tracks her own clues, and she decides that she will save her father, leaving Batman to his own devices as she leaves for her own investigation. Batman takes off to see if he can get Red Robin's help, but Red Robin has already come to town, and he's begun investigating a situation in which children have gone missing, and he's kind of unavailable right now. As Batman leaves, we see that Red Robin is dealing with a case all of his own in which the children are getting sick or they go missing. He's traced the situation back to some crazy new nanotechnology, and just as he begins to figure out who's controlling this technology, it wakes up. Oh hell, he says as it approaches him. But while this is going on, a young girl named Harper Row is saving Vicky Val, and they are both on the floor right beneath Red Robin as he comes crashing through the floor. The nanoswarm looks up and it sees all of these gang members and Vicky Val and Harper Row, and it decides that they are the newest threats, so it moves from Red Robin to assault them. Red Robin runs out of the room yelling for everyone to follow him, and they lock the swarm inside. But the swarm just assaults one of Harper Row's friends named Cullen. It goes inside of him, and it goes dormant as he falls to the ground unconscious. Red Robin, Vicky, and Harper all stand there, unsure of what they should do next. Meanwhile, across the globe in Tokyo, a man is staring at his computer, with a newspaper in front of him. The paper reads, "The gang war is going to be breaking out soon," by Vicky Vale. And on his screen, he can see that the swarms have activated. Oh dear, young Mr. Wayne isn't going to like this one bit. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Batman is getting some weird reports about Arkham Asylum and some weird mystical energies happening underneath it. So he sends in Batwing to help Specter. And Batwing and Specter have quite an adventure ahead of them, as Batman himself begins to follow a fleeing truck that he tagged earlier during one of the shipments. It's time to see where this is going. As he gets closer to the truck, those mystical energies that were underneath Arkham Asylum decided to leak underneath Gotham itself, and they blow up on the truck right in front of the Batmobile. The truck and the Batmobile catch on fire, and the truck begins to roll around. Thinking quickly, Batman grabs the thug that was inside of the truck and he questions him. "Where are you going? Who hired you?" But before he can get any other answers out of the man, Professor Pig walks out of a nearby hideout and demands to know who would sully his perfection. Batman grabs a bat bike and he begins to charge in, battling against all of the Dalo-Otrons that Professor Pig is sending at him. On the other side of Gotham, Carmine sits with his men. The explosion wasn't his. It was someone else intercepting their bomb with their own bomb. And now Batman is involved, and he's busy fighting with Professor Pig. "Very good," Carmine says. "If your associate is as good as he says, then by morning, the real rulers of this city will have it back from the freaks." But while both of these events are happening, Catwoman has broken into Penguin's hideout and is battling against him because she doesn't care if Carmine and Penguin have their little gang war. But the moment that the poor people of Gotham Underground have been dragged into it, she wants to remove the threat herself. She's wrecking Penguin, but he has a secret weapon up his sleeve and he knocks Catwoman to the ground before he begins to get word that Carmine's underwater attack is starting on his Harborside Casino hideout. Distracted by the attack happening on his hideout, Catwoman gets back up and she jumps on Penguin to continue her assault. But that's when Penguin explains that he isn't doing anything to the Gotham Underground. Just like the missing children, people are missing from the Underground and no one knows why. The citizens of Gotham Underground have come to Penguin for his protection, and he's been providing it. He explains that he unified Gotham underneath him to keep the violence from spilling out onto the streets, but Carmine would rather have the old days where children caught bullets meant for thugs. This is a war for the heart of Gotham, and she needs to decide what side she is on, because she's a lot more important than you or I both know. At that exact moment, an explosion rocks the hideout of Penguin, and Carmine looks out over the bay. That boom was beautiful. During all of this, Batman has finally been able to push back these doll creations and get to Professor Pig, the Professor Pig that started all of this by trapping Gordon with Carmine's thug. But when he questions Professor Pig as to what he was doing, what he did to Gordon, Pig just tells him that he's been working for Carmine Falcone. Batman tries to get through to Pig to explain that he's been set up, give him the information that he needs, and Carmine is going to destroy the streets with Pig on them. But Pig doesn't listen, as Batman ends this by destroying the device that Pig is using to control the dolls. Back with Catwoman in Penguin's hideout, she's trying her best to save the poor workers of this casino while it begins to sink into the bay. She gets out who she can and then she makes her way back out of the water where she saves Penguin from a killer whale that's been set loose in the bay. Batman ties up Pig for the police and he leaves the area. Then the new commissioner arrives, Commissioner Forbes, to set Pig free. This city needs a message loud and clear. The Gotham PD no longer works with Batman or any of the capes. As morning begins to arrive on Gotham, Batman and Catwoman clean up the mess from the explosions. But the war has officially started. Penguin and Carmine's gangs are about to begin battling, and the capes are going to be stuck in the middle of this. Meanwhile, across Gotham, one of Carmine's facilities explodes as Professor Pig has left a bomb in it. He thanks the GCPD for making Gotham his new laboratory. The new Commissioner Forbes turns on the bat signal, and he listens to the newest police detective, Jason Bard, behind him. For the record, Commissioner, I'm against this. Duly noted, LT. Once the sign on my door reads Bard and not Forbes, then someone might give a damn. But for now, this is my police force, not yours, not Jim Gordon's, and certainly not Batman's. It is then that we pan out to see the entire GCPD police force waiting. Let's get ready for him. It doesn't take long for Batman to arrive. Commissioner Forbes, you called? I came. We should talk. Your predecessor, Commissioner Gordon, and I had an understanding. James Gordon was a rotten cop with no respect for the law. You and I want the same things, to keep Gotham safe. I'm here to keep the criminals off the streets. I want them off the streets starting with you. And Forbes raises his hands to tell the units to fire. But Bard shouts out, D-Unit, fire! D-Unit is the smoke grenade unit, and the entire rooftop begins to fill up, allowing Batman to disarm everyone in the smoke. But once he moves through the smoke, Bard gets a perfect shot lined up with Batman's head, and he lowers his weapon. As Batman leaves the roof, Forbes smashes the bat signal, ending the GCPD's connection with Batman. Batman gets back to the Batcave where he turns to Alfred. I might still have some help on the GCPD, but I'm gonna go to Hong Kong. Falcone came back to Gotham for a reason, and I'm gonna find out why. As Batman leaves Gotham, Forbes gets picked up by the thugs of Falcone and brought to Falcone himself. It happened again, Forbes. I thought we had an arrangement. You promised to get a handle on the costume freaks in this town as a condition of your employment. Someone broke into my hideouts and got away with $375,000 of my money. Batman is a lot of things, but a thief, Forbes says, shocked. Idiot, not Batman. I'm talking about Catwoman. I thought Batman was my priority. We put a scare into him. That's why he's not showing his face. Batman isn't afraid to show his face. If he isn't making trouble for me, then he's not in Gotham right now. Across the globe in Hong Kong, Batman is currently battling against ninjas with one of the many members of Batman Incorporated, Zero. Zero and Canary have been working with Batman to figure out what would make Falcone leave his gang war in Hong Kong and go back to Gotham. He was winning against Fang with the help of the Yakuza. With him gone, the Fang took over, so Zero and Batman decided to pay the Fang a visit by going to the Fang's leader, only to walk right into the middle of somebody else already breaking in. The mysterious woman gets stabbed by Shen Fang, the leader of the Fang, and Batman begins to beat on the man, demanding to know how Fang suddenly won this war, and why did Falcone leave Hong Kong? At first, Shen Fang stands strong, but it doesn't take long for Batman to get his answers. Fang never won. Falcone was offered a buyout because, as he put it, he had unfinished business in Gotham, and someone told him it was time to come back. Batman finishes Shen Fang, and Zero arrives just in time to ask Batman, who's that woman? Once Batman gets into the Batplane, he looks up her name and he radios back to Alfred. I need the guest room prepared for a special guest. I'm bringing back Julia Pennyworth, your daughter. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Catwoman continues breaking into Falcone's hideouts, only to find a small army waiting for her behind one of the doors. He quickly subdues her and he hauls her off. Catwoman and Falcone have a history, so he intends to enjoy this, and he ties her to a chair and he begins to torture her, telling her that he intends to become Gotham's protector, the true champion that they need. But right beneath both of them, Professor Pig hasn't forgotten how Falcone screwed him over in our last video, and he's currently killing all of Falcone's thugs as he climbs up to his penthouse. Catwoman scoffs at Falcone. You'll never be a champion. We have Batman. and he throws her to the ground. Batman is nothing more than a protector of the costume freak parade. He keeps the status quo. He's so much weaker than I was told. But that catches Catwoman's attention. What do you mean you were told? Falcone ignores her. I'm here to put the animals back in their cages. And that's the moment that Professor Pig arrives. Don't bet the farm on that, Falcone! Yeah-yeah-yo! Meanwhile, on the other side of Gotham, Stephanie Brown has snuck into the library after hours where she does her research on a villain known as Clue Master. The man her father is claiming to be is nothing more than a D-list supervillain that has fought Batman a few odd times. Back with Professor Pig and Falcone, Pig has tied down Falcone and he's preparing to begin cutting and slicing him up. He'll make him better. Luckily, the hostage situation has made the news, and the GCPD have the building surrounded, so Batman comes crashing through the skylight, and he begins to beat some of the half-animals' heads in. He frees Catwoman as she begins to jump over, beating on the helpless Falcone, while Batman is busy with the thugs. He does manage to stop her though, because he and her both need to leave before the GCPD storm this building. As Batman and Catwoman leave, she tells Batman what Falcone said, that someone told him this would happen. But the question is, once again, who is orchestrating this? Meanwhile, down in Brazil, Batgirl has tracked the man down that she believes is responsible for her father's incarceration. But it turns out to be just another patsy set up to distract her, and she fell for it. Luckily, Red Hood has been sent down by Batman to help her follow the trail and figure out who arranged all of this. But as she tells Red Hood, they need to hurry because they only have days before Gordon's sentencing. Back over at the Wayne Mansion, Julia Pennyworth wakes up and is groggy but grateful to be alive. But she's immediately furious when she sees her father. Alfred and his daughter haven't been in speaking terms for a long time because she just doesn't understand why a man that was once MI6 and worked for the Queen would give up his standing to go and work for some spoiled rich party boy. How could he leave her and her mother for this Wayne family, for the family that he chose? While this is going on, the gang war across Gotham rages on, with bullets flying all over from Falcone and Penguin. So Jason Bard rallies up the officers that he feels he can trust, which includes Harvey Bullock. He tells them that they need to take back this city because it's starting to get out of hand. And for every place that Falcone shoots up, Penguin burns down one of his. But Bullock looks at Bard. The GCPD can't get involved. We're supposed to pretend that there isn't even a gang war thanks to the new commissioner. And Bard looks at him, who said we're gonna stop the gang war. We need to stop Batman, don't we? Meanwhile, Red Robin is trying to figure out his own situation, which involves nanomachines infecting the brother of a girl he knows, Harper Row. He feels as though he can get some answers out of the recently incarcerated Professor Pig, but his computer informs him that Harper Row is currently hacking into the Bat Family computer network. How did she do that, he thinks to himself, as he heads back to Robin's nest. Back with the GCPD, Bullock uses the one method of contacting Batman that you never hear about, the Bat phone. Batman arrives on a rooftop with Bullock and Bard standing there. What is he doing here? Batman asks Bullock, and Bullock explains that this was Bard's idea. He's just along for the ride. I have an idea how we can stop this gang war by the end of the week, but you just need to let us catch you, Batman. Back with Stephanie Brown, she gets a phone call from her roommate. You got a package, Stephanie. But Stephanie warns her not to open it. Something fishy is going on. Her roommate doesn't listen and opens it anyway to find a horse, one that is orange and blue. Steph thinks about it for a minute and simply says, "It's a clue." But that's when her roommate follows up with another comment. "This box is ticking, Steph." Instantly, the entire apartment explodes. Across Gotham, the entire GCPD strike team is watching as Batman enters a building. "This is it," Bard shouts. "We have Batman and his thugs cornered." They kick the door in and they aim their weapons at the gang members sitting there. One of the strike team members turns to Bard. "Sir, these don't look like bat people to me." "They don't, do they? That sure looks like a bat tattoo on that man's arm." Implying that the mark that is actually the mark of the Falcone gang is actually Batman's gang symbol. The strike team member immediately gets what they're doing. "Ha! Sir, yes sir, that is definitely the bat's mark." So the police haul off Falcone's thugs, and Batman appears in front of Bard. "Your plan, I'm impressed." Well, it's not over yet. The next day, Forbes comes storming into the GCPD offices. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Bard?" "I was arresting known accomplices of the vigilante Batman, sir." "Do those men look like Robins or Nightbirds or whatever?" "Sir, they're all guilty of possession. I don't care, Bard. And that's when Vicky Vale steps up. Now that's a quote. Is it true, Commissioner Forbes, that you are not allowing these men to be arrested? Forbes is now backed into a corner, and Bard lets Vicky begin to grill him as he goes back to arresting Batman's accomplices. Meanwhile, at the Robin's Nest, Red Robin arrives and asks his computer where Harper Row is currently located. What he doesn't know is that she's actually hiding right behind him, in the nest. She traced his signal back to this location, but he does have other things to look into, so he decides that he'll talk to her once he gets back from Japan as he loads up into the Robin jet. On the other side of Gotham, tears stream down Stephanie Brown's face as she looks from across the street at her burning apartment building. How could it go this far? She was just a simple girl. And on a computer screen watching her is her father, the Clue Master. Now there's one plotline that we haven't mentioned yet, the cursed hauntings at Arkham Asylum. Well, don't worry, it's still going on as Scarecrow is running from whatever is haunting the asylum. He is afraid, and whatever it is, pulls him through the wall. Back with the other gang, Penguin is furious that he's been forced into hiding by Falcone. He's worth $19 million. He shouldn't be hiding. But a rather interesting phone call comes over the wire, one that informs Penguin of Falcone's whereabouts. In his hideout, Falcone is screaming into a phone demanding to know what is going on with the police. Who is this cop that is messing up their plans? And that's when he gets a knock at the door. He opens it to find all of his men dead. Penguin is standing there and he launches a knife into Falcone's hand, putting him to his knees with no guards to protect him. You disgusting little... Oh, let's keep this dignified. Penguin stabs Falcone again. I'm what this city made me. I'm a creature of the now. Penguin takes his blade and he presses it against Falcone's neck, just as all of the lights come on. And there at the end of the hallway is the GCPD, led by Jason Bard and Vicky Vale. Bard arrests both men on multiple accounts of murder and attempted murder. And when they both try to argue that Forbes will have his head for this, he informs them that he had Forbes arrested that morning. Meanwhile, Red Robin is flying over the Pacific Ocean, looking at all of the news reports coming in. Hero cop Bard ends gang war overnight. Penguin's feathers plucked. Carmine Falcone directly tied to criminal empire. Well, that was one hell of a night to leave Gotham. And just then his diagnostics check comes in, and it tells him that he has a passenger. In the cargo hold of his jet is Harper Row, eating cheese puffs. You have got to be kidding me! Back with Batman, he confronts Jason Bard on the rooftop of the GCPD. Because what he did was incredible. But at the same time, he was the one that sent Penguin to Falcone's location, and it cost 12 people their lives. But Bard tells him, I'm changing the city for the better, Batman, and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. And I want you to do it with me, together. But as he turns around, Batman's already left. Lastly, we end this chapter by cutting back to Scarecrow to see what it is that he's truly afraid of in Arkham Asylum. Joker's daughter has him pinned to the ground, and she has a hatchet ready to slam into his face. The little bat boy and his ghostly friend are about to pay us a visit, and I can't have any distractions. So I'll just take care of you right now. After all, that's what my daddy told me. Red Robin found a stowaway on his plane. Harper, just come out. I know you're there, he calls out to her in the cargo hold of the ship. Red Robin has begun investigating children that have recently gotten sick with nanomachines. One of these children was Harper's brother. And when Red Robin decided to go to Japan to see if he can find the inventor of the nanomachines, Harper Row stowed aboard. You just let me crouch back there this whole time? Harper yelled as she came out of the cargo hold. Damn right I did. You stow away, you deserve 9 hours of sitting in a stress position. How did you even get on board? I hid right behind you the whole way, like a ninja. Sure you did. You stay here while I'll find this Sergey guy. He made the robots from what I can find, and I'm not babysitting you. Look, Robin, this is my family, and I can handle myself. The name is Red Robin, and no dice. This isn't amateur hour. And on that note, Red Robin walked into the city. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Batwing and Specter are investigating the reports of hauntings in Arkham Asylum. Batwing is a member of Batman Incorporated, the organization that Batman started to get other like-minded heroes under his wing. And Specter is the Holy Spirit of Vengeance, housed in the body of Jim Corrigan. They begin investigating the lower levels and quickly discover the sight of blood falling up from the floor. There's an etheric pylon underneath this cell, The good news is that this means that we're getting close. The bad news means that this is someone that can work with skill, Corrigan says as the two men follow their clues and they go deeper into the building. I say we get Batman and the whole crew down here. This might be a bit much for us, Batwing tells him. Batman is busy with the gang war, and since you might not be able to communicate with your team while we're down here, if you want to turn around, you're welcome to. But I need to stop this, Corrigan says as they exit through the back door and into some caverns beneath Arkham. What they find sends a chill down Batwing's spine, because it's a man with his head bound in a bag being suspended in the air and the blood being drained from his body and flowing upwards. I think I know who's behind all of this, Corrigan says. Meanwhile, down in Brazil, Batgirl and Red Hood have tracked their lead down to a plastic surgeon, and as soon as they break the door open, they find Batwoman standing there holding the person that they want to interrogate by his shirt. You're here too? Batgirl exclaims. I followed my own trail here, Batgirl, but it would seem that I'm on the right track. Fine, whatever, I want to go first. Batgirl grabs the doctor and begins to find out her next clue. Over in Japan, Red Robin finds himself thrown out of the scientist's lab and thrown onto the ground right in front of Harper. I told you to stay with the plane! Red Robin, I know, and I totally didn't listen! Then they both turn around to find an old man with a monkey. Excellent, you two survived. Now we can talk, and then we can test you again. Back beneath Arkham Asylum, Batwing and Jim Corrigan have battled ghosts, empty vessels, and even the Joker's daughter, to find themselves in front of the man behind the entire haunting of Arkham, Deacon Blackfire. They begin to fight against the undead beings that they were supposed to be stopping, while the Joker's daughter watches from the outskirts, showing a severed head the entire battle. Batwing and Corrigan find themselves overwhelmed and separated, while Joker's daughter continues to look on. And just when Corrigan finally decides he needs his own internal demon, the spirit of vengeance, Specter refuses to manifest itself, leaving Corrigan in a pool of black and murky water. Back in Japan, Red Robin and Harper aren't getting any answers out of the doctor that they came to see. His name is Sergey, and while he admits that the nanomachines are his, he has no idea how they got there, because those models were conveniently stolen. Meanwhile, over in Brazil, the team-up of Batgirl, Red Hood, and Batwoman is finally making some traction to find the man that arranged to have Jim Gordon sent to prison for manslaughter. Walking through the worst slums in the area, they come across a child, and after rescuing him and calling the child a painted horse with his poor Portuguese, Red Hood figures out that this child is from a nearby sweatshop, and Batgirl's target is in there also. Back in Gotham, finally, Batman and Bard are working together to clean up the streets, which includes tracking down the missing people from the Gotham Underground that Catwoman mentioned a while back. Batman isn't sure if he can trust Bard, because as Batman puts it, Bard's intentions are too good, but he does follow Bard down into the sewers as Bard is tracking down these missing children. In the sewer, they don't find any missing children, but they do find Killer Croc, and he's none too happy to see Batman and this cop on his turf. As Bard falls into the water, he yells out that Croc is under arrest for the suspected kidnapping and murder of multiple victims. But Croc just seems shocked. Kidnapping? Those people came to me! They wanted my help! And he grabs Officer Bard and gets ready to feast on a cop when Batman leaps onto his back. Croc, I know you didn't do it. I know, look at the wall! On the wall of the sewer is a black handprint. The trio agree to work together for now, because those handprints are linked to some rather odd creatures, and Croc can bring Batman to a location where he's been stashing the ones that he's been finding. Back in Brazil, Red Hood is spying in on the sweatshop. There's a lot of things that a person can do to guarantee a bullet for me, but enslaving a bunch of kids is definitely a way to get a full clip from me. We said no killing, Red Robin. Batman's rules, Batwoman tells him. Not my fault if I get confused and someone's face looks like their kneecap. Let's just break in there. I'll get the guards to the left. No, if we break in Red Hood style, whoever's in charge of this and whoever framed my father will get away. We're gonna go in stealth, Batgirl tells him. So they sneak in, slowly knocking out the guards and creeping over the shipment crates. But it's Batgirl who walks into the main office to find her target sitting there, with the Bat Family Toys making a business deal. He stands up and he looks right at Batgirl, right in the eyes. And she finds herself mesmerized. Then, out of the blue, Red Hood and Batwoman find Batgirl leaping at them ready to fight. She begins throwing her batarangs at two individuals that she sees, which is actually the Joker and her brother. She doesn't see Red Hood and Batwoman. Red Hood looks at her. She doesn't see us, does she, Batwoman? Nope. Just like Commissioner Gordon saw a guy that wasn't there. So this is some kind of mind control device. Yep, looks like the one used by the Mad Hatter. So we're fighting a knockoff Mad Hatter, which means Batgirl is right and our culprit is here. Go get him, Batwoman. I'll get Batgirl. But, look, I'll do my best not to shoot her. And with that, Batgirl cracks Red Hood across the face with a kick. And while I'm at it, I'll try and not die. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Croc has brought Bard and Batman to his cage, where he's keeping the reanimated corpses that he's been finding. The ones that have been leaving behind black handprints, and the ones who have been kidnapping people from the Gotham Underground. Batman got reports from the 2 men that he sent to Arkham Asylum that these black handprints were linked to the undead, and that's why he believed Croc. But Batman knows these things. They aren't from this world, or from some hell beneath Gotham like Croc believes. They're extra-dimensional aliens. But while Batman is explaining this, Bard is looking at some police officer equipment that he's found, and the names on the badges are the names of the officers that have been missing. Batman finishes by stating that these creatures are probably right beneath him in the caverns somewhere, because wherever they're bringing these kidnapped people to, it will be somewhere where they're at their strongest, and that's going to be deeper down. So Batman leaps off the cliff head first, ready to fight whatever's down below. Back in Brazil, Red Hood finds himself kicked down into the sweatshop area, and he rubs his head and sees all of the children around him. Look, I probably got a concussion, so I'm not gonna bother with the Portuguese. Get out of here! Run, kids, run! Get the hell out! But one of the thugs stops the kids by holding a gun to their heads. So Red Hood shoots him in the kneecap. Damn concussion, I was aiming for your head. And then Batgirl lands in front of him. Oh hey, Batgirl. Batwoman has made her way to the Madman's office during this time though, and as she knows what technology he's using, she knows exactly how to prevent it from affecting her, and she walks right up to him and sticks him with a version of Scarecrow's fear toxin. He freaks out and runs to the door. Down with Batgirl and Red Hood, he's finally noticed that all of the children have left the area. Haha, playtime's over. So he leaps right at Batgirl. I know you have a photographic memory, BG, so remember this, and you'll know that I'm not your enemy. The autumn evening, yellow and orange leaves, the dinner party at the manor. The whole time he's trying to remind her, he's literally letting her kick him around, uppercuts to the face, kicks to the head, and eventually his entire helmet is cracked out. You kept looking away from me, and I thought you were nervous, liked me even. So I said, "What's wrong, Red?" And you gave me this cold, disappointed look and said, "You'll never be Dick Grayson." Come on, Batgirl, you have this photographic memory. Well, remember this because I only remember the important things. And with that finally jogging Batgirl's memory, she stops, and she falls into Red Hood's arms. Like the day that I finally got to meet Batgirl. Oh God, Jason. While they were resolving this, the good doctor behind the entire scheme, Dr. Falsario, has made his break out the back door, terrified out of his mind. And Batgirl sees him leaving and shouts, "He's mine." Back beneath Gotham, Batman, Croc, and Bard have already managed to find the extra-dimensional aliens and started fighting them back. Down there is the girl Jade that Croc was trying to protect, the one that begged for his help. And the aliens are moving so fast that they opened a portal back home as they try to suck up Croc's friend Jade. Batman moves quickly, firing his grappling hook to catch the young girl and pull her out of it. But as it turns out, the kidnapped kids were the power source for the portals, and it shuts down as Batman pulls her closer. The whole portal area begins to come down as Croc throws Jade over to Bard. Then both Croc and Batman leap off the portal area as it all comes crumbling down to the depths below. Batman, Bard, and Croc all brace themselves as they fall onto a ledge, and the whole group hits a safe spot. I got what I came for, Bats! So this is where we part, Croc says to Batman, but Bard pulls a gun on Croc. You're under arrest for the suspected murder of 3 Gotham City police officers. Oh, is that right? Back in your lair, there were the vests of missing officers. Those were dirty cops. But realizing that Bard's not gonna listen to reason, Croc pushes Jade to Batman and backs through a wall behind him, crushing the entryway and blocking Bard from getting to him. Bard then opens fire on the rocks, hoping to get in a lucky shot, but he doesn't succeed. Over in Brazil, Batgirl has finally caught up to Dr. Falsario, the man responsible for her father's crime and the true mastermind behind what happened to Jim Gordon. But just as she goes in to capture him, he's murdered by an assassin. Looking around, she sees nothing but a sword lodged into a tree. She walks back to the factory defeated, and Red Hood stands there with a flash drive. Don't worry about him, Barb. Batwoman pulled all of the evidence off of his computer. Your dad'll be going free. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, during all of this, Stephanie Brown has decided that it's time for her to do something. It's time for her to spoil her dad's clues. As the spoiler, Batman calls up Alfred, letting him know that Alfred may have been right, Bard might just be a good cop. So Batman arranges for the police to allow him to speak to Falcone, and he opens up their discussion by punching him across the jaw. You lied. You said that you had nothing to do with Jim Gordon's framing, but my agents found Dr. Falsario, the man that hypnotized Gordon, and he was murdered by a man on your payroll. We can tell because the assassin left behind a ceremonial knife that was passed from crime lord to crime lord. So I'm going to ask you one more time. Who's behind all of this? Falcone just laughs at Batman. I told you, I have no idea. I just got this invitation. So Batman looks at the card Falcone is holding. You have been cordially invited to partake in the devastation of Gotham City. You know what this means, right, Bats? This is just the beginning. Batman's next stop is to Bard's office, where he hands him the Bat flash drive. On this is all of the evidence that will clear Jim Gordon. It's all a part of a deliberate plan to start crippling Gotham City. Who do you think is behind all of this? And Batman just stares at him. You don't know, Bard says sadly. Meanwhile, at the Wayne Manor, Alfred and his daughter, who he hasn't seen since she was a child, are finally starting to make headway and connect. When alarms go off in Wayne Manor suddenly, almost on instinct, Alfred walks over to a safe room where he walks Julia in before knocking her out and sealing her inside of it. He then walks out of there with her pistol and begins to walk through the manor looking for the invader. But that's when Hush comes out of nowhere and sticks a syringe into his skull. Back at Blackgate Prison, a man is standing in front of one of the cells. We need your help. We need the architect. It's time for your role in the grand design to come into play. And after leaving the villain's uniform behind, he steps outside the prison, revealing Jason Bard. His phone suddenly rings and he answers it. Is it done? Yes, the architect is in play. And Batman? He doesn't suspect a thing. Bard then breaks the thumb drive in half as he says to himself, Gotham belongs to us now. Things begin with Julia trying to call Bruce to make him aware that something has happened to her father, but he's not answering. And Alfred manages to get the words out to her. Grandfather clock, 10:48. At first, she is lost as to what's going on, but when she turns around and sees the clock, she decides to spin the hands to 10:48 and is amazed when it opens up, revealing a secret passageway. Elsewhere, the architect has begun his assault on Arkham by taking over a tower that was still under construction. Batman sees him tearing apart the walls from a distance and setting something up, so he calls back to the Batcave, but no one answers. Until Julia Pennyworth ends up answering the call and, to Batman's surprise, informs him that her father is currently being taken to the hospital. She tells Batman that he should go to her father, he should try to help, but Batman informs her that he can't, much to her dismay. Batman explains that he needs to get to the architect's beacon now, or people are going to die. It's what Alfred would have wanted. So he goes to the tower and he gets inside and he starts taking out the guards and saving the hostages. And then he asks for Penny 2's help. Julia, help me. He needs to know the layout of the building so that he can get these hostages out. And once he does get them out with her help, he goes to the top where he slams the architect into a wall. Who are you working for? This is only the start, Batman. But behind him, Batman can hear someone talking and a shot fired. No, not him. Penny 2, how did the attacker get into the mansion? Through the South Library. The clues are right there. It's the only person that it could have been. Hush. And behind Batman, Hush has killed one of the hostages. Meanwhile, in the Gotham Underground, some more of the thugs are fighting animals against each other until Catwoman comes in to rescue a snow leopard that they were just about to sacrifice to pit bulls. But as she tries to get out of the arena with the cat, the villainous character Tiger Shark takes a shot at her, ruining Catwoman's rescue operation. As she's mourning the loss of the snow leopard, a child by the name of Jade sneaks into Catwoman's apartment and tells her he needs her at Blackgate. Elsewhere, Croc's trying his best to find his way out of the tunnels beneath Gotham as he sealed himself there to avoid Jason Bard. His people need him, he screams out as he drops multiple undead creatures. Catwoman and Jade both make it to the cell in Blackgate that they were trying to get to. The cell of the last crime family in Gotham. The one that's been out of commission for the longest time. The one run by Catwoman's father. Catwoman grabs him and demands to know why he would use a child to get at her. And he explains, Jade works for Croc and wanted to help. Then he explains that he called her here because she needs to save Gotham. She is the only one that can unify the families. While she goes by the name Selina Kyle, her real last name is Calabrese, and with that name comes a power and a legacy. She can end these gang wars. No more innocents need to suffer. Back with Batman, he begins to beat down the Architect, telling him that he's just Hush's pawn. But the Architect tells Batman that it's too late, and Penny 2 reports seismic activity happening beneath the tower that they're all on. The tower begins to fall apart around them as the Architect jumps off the side using his wings to fly away. All of Gotham begins to feel the smaller quakes, from the random streets with the random passerbys all the way down to the underground as Catwoman and Jade leave her father back in the cell. But across town, Jason Bard enters the mayor's office and he tells him, "This city has been going downhill since Zero Year, and I have reason to believe that all of these recent events are connected. We need to declare martial law in the city, sir." Meanwhile, over in the old Gotham district, Cluemaster is having a meeting and he sure didn't check for any tails because Stephanie Brown, in her spoiler outfit, has snuck in behind and is recording the conversation. But she's left wondering who this bandaged man that he's talking to is, the one that's ordering her father around. Hush explains that they're gonna move forward and Cluemaster needs to present a body for his daughter now. She needs to die. But Cluemaster tells him that he already has his men working. He has a guy messing with the traffic lights, causing gridlocks. He's blowing out water lines, and they've begun rolling blackouts. So once Hush leaves, Spoiler jumps down from the rafters and she gets ready to take her motorcycle. But that's when Cluemaster comes back in and throws gas onto the floor. It fills the room and Spoiler begins to cough. "We could have been Cluemaster and the Pointer. Why are you turning on me, Stephanie?" "A pointer is a dog, Dad," she shouts as she throws a wrench at his head and takes a motorcycle. He quickly gets up and begins to chase her on his own motorcycle, throwing various explosives at her, and eventually they make their way to the bridge where Stephanie lets the bike get blown up so that her father thinks that he's won. And just then, the police arrive to arrest him. She waves at him. "Hey!" She set the whole thing up to get him arrested. Meanwhile, at the Gotham Gazette, Jason Bard is forcing them to run a story stating that the city is under attack and that the government refuses to act. He needs them to run this story now to save everyone, to make them aware of what's about to happen. Of course, this starts a panic across the town, and a young girl is about to be mugged for a jug of water. But Harper Row and Red Robin prevent it from happening. He started her training in Tokyo, and he's using this as a perfect opportunity to see if it's been working. And she's been getting good. Back with Batman, he knows that he has to move fast if Hush is behind all of this, and he has Penny 2 run a scan on the cameras in Blackgate just to see who set the Architect free. And that's when he sees his new friend, Jason Bard, setting the Psycho free. Red Hood and Red Robin take a second to stop in and check on Alfred. They're getting close to home, Robin says, as they note that Commissioner Gordon and Alfred are now both out of commission. "Let's get Batgirl and go see the boss. It's time for us all to work together again." Batman leaps into Bard's apartment to try and end this, but inside he discovers nothing more than a hologram of Hush. "Why are you doing this, Tommy?" "I've come here to take everything away from you, everything that you've never deserved." He then blows up the apartment with Batman inside. As he struggles to get out of the explosion, Red Robin reaches out a hand. "We're here." So the whole crew goes back to the Batcave to go over this whole situation and meet Juliet Pennyworth. Red Robin goes over the notes. Jim Gordon hasn't been released from prison yet, even though Jason and Barbara got enough evidence to clear him. Riots are spreading throughout Gotham. There's a nanotech virus that I can't even crack the surface of, and Alfred's been injected with so much fear toxin that it could be years until he recovers. Who is this that is attacking us, that knows us so well? And Bruce tells them, "It's Hush. It's been Hush all along. He owns the police and he got the riots started." So Tim, Jason, and Barbara all tell Bruce that they'll be there for him, and they head off to stop all the riots, to try their best. They're gonna find Hush's plants that are keeping the riots going, and they're gonna take down the plants. Batman takes Julia to see her father and explain that Hush was a former friend of Bruce's. And when he lost his parents, everything went downhill, and he blamed Bruce for having what he deserved himself. So his goal has always been to take it all away from Bruce. Meanwhile, Spoiler has broken into the prison so that she can show her father what she's about to post to the internet. All of her spoilers about his plans and his evil deeds. But he smirks as her post changes from revealing everything to a bounty of $100 million on her head. Then, while the Bat family is preoccupied trying to squash the riots and the police are trying to work together to calm down the riots, Dr. Thomas Elliot, Hush's true identity, moves Alfred from the hospital and into Arkham Asylum. And while Alfred is trying to get his bearings in Arkham Asylum, Croc has finally started to make his way back to the service, and as he exits through the Arkham Asylum tunnels, he won't be having any problems with the bizarre creatures that have started taking over Arkham Asylum. Back with Jason Bard, he smirks as he sees Batman's shadow looking over him. "Let's talk, Batman." But Batgirl leaps at him. "Oh, you're gonna wish that I was Batman." Across Gotham, everyone is looking for something. Batman and Catwoman are looking for information on Hush and the gangs, but they have a slight falling out when Batman asks if he can help her with her issue. And Croc, he's back in Gotham tearing the place apart looking for Jade. When he escaped Bard, he left Jade with Batman, so where is she now? Once Catwoman gets back to her apartment, she finds another of Gotham's gangs awaiting to assault her and kidnap her. When Catwoman comes to, she's tied to a stripper pole in a strip club with a villain known as the Skull, ready to beat her head in with a baseball bat. And Jade is about to be forced to watch. Meanwhile, Batman has thrown a tracer onto a random thug, hoping that he will lead him back to Hush's base of operations. Back with Catwoman, she turns to Jade and she tells her not to watch as she gets ready to take a bat to the head. And that's when Croc breaks down the door looking for Jade. He swore that he would protect Jade. She is his family. Jade perks up, "Mr. Wayland!" And the Skull turns to see him. Holy hell, he's real. Using this distraction, Catwoman trips up Skull, putting him to the ground. Croc continues to throw thugs around, with bullets bouncing off of his thick skin. Everything is getting crazy hectic, and then one of the gang leaders decides that he's gonna take a shot at Catwoman so that she can't get away, just as Jade is trying to uncuff her. Batman arrives just as things are beginning to calm down, because the thug led him right to this building. But as he enters, he sees Croc on his knees holding Jade, and Catwoman crying. Jade took the bullet for her, and she's already dead. Croc just tells everyone to throw him in Arkham, because they took his people. They took his Jade. They took his soul. He's got nothing left. Batman jumps in, not understanding what's going on, and he's ready to attack Croc, but Catwoman kicks him aside. "Leave Croc alone!" So Batman grabs her by the shoulders to ask her, "What happened? What did you do, Selina?" Catwoman begins to cry on Batman's surprised shoulder. "I could have stopped it. I could have stopped innocents from being in the crossfire. Selina, I'm here." And she steps away. "No, you're not. I'm alone." Back with Batgirl, she's threatening to drop Bard off a rooftop until he finally talked, but she couldn't bring herself to actually hurt him, and he knew that, so he didn't say anything. But that's when Jason Todd arrives. And he takes the rope from her, and he drops Jason Bard to the ground. As Bard is falling to Gotham face first, he says, "I'm sorry, Gotham!" And that's when Batgirl catches the rope right in time at the last second. "You were always better than me, Barbs, and you proved it again." Batgirl looks to Jason Todd. "Maybe you should stay this time, Jason. Help the family. Save Gotham." "Nah, Gotham's never been enough for me, Barb." "What if there was more?" she says, leaning up against him. "No," he says, turning away, grabbing his hood and putting it on. "Why?" "Because, Barb, it's like you said. I'll never be Dick Grayson." And with that, Red Hood jumped off the side of the tower and landed on Starfire's spaceship. Red Hood, Starfire, and Arsenal have many more adventures to go on their own, and we'll be touching on those later. But once again, across Gotham, Catwoman sneaks back into Blackgate Penitentiary, where she walks up to her father. She looks right at him, and she tells him, "You were right. There's only one person that can fix this, who can control the chaos, who can assert the natural order. Me, the daughter of the Lion." We begin with Jim Corrigan, the host of the Specter, being turned into another one of Blackfire's totems, beneath Arkham Asylum. Corrigan asks him if he's even in control of it, or if there's a higher power controlling him. And down in the waters below, filled with bones and corpses, Batwing finally gets his suit to come back online and his comms finally begin to start working again. Batman can finally communicate with him. "Batman, I need your help. These tunnels are changing shape and the suit keeps going offline. You called in earlier. You said everything was fine. That wasn't me. This place is the opposite of fine. Corrigan is gone and Deacon Blackfire has come back from hell. But that doesn't make any sense. How did Hush get Blackfire involved? You tell me, boss. Where I stand, nothing makes sense anymore." So Batwing uploads a code that he found in Riddler's cell, hoping Batman and Penny 2 can crack it and see what the Riddler was trying to tell them. While Gotham itself is going crazy with all of the riots all around, traffic piling up and helicopters being dropped, Batman tells Batwing that he's on his way. Meanwhile, back at Arkham, Joker's daughter has had enough. She thought she was helping because that's what Daddy wanted, but the Joker never gave her orders like this. Someone's been messing with her. Batwing manages to get to the main room where he sees Corrigan being tortured, and he jumps at Blackfire hoping to stop this. But it's all too late. The final totem has been connected, and a beam of green energy fires into the sky for everyone at Arkham to see. And Penny 2 finally cracks the message. Arkham is just a piece of the plan. If you can read this, you are smart enough to know our foe. Blackfire has done it. He's been revived, and now has hundreds of undead creatures crawling towards him. But it's finally time for the Specter to arrive. Massive in size, the Specter is the weapon of God, a spirit of vengeance that cannot be called on, because he arrives when he decides to. And he is needed to seal this breach between Earth and Hell. He absorbs all of the undead creatures and the spirits, and he contains all of them. And then he's warped back into Jim Corrigan's body. Batwing jumps down into the crater that was made and grabs Corrigan. We've gotta go! Blackfire's magic is gone and the walls are falling apart. And as Batman approaches Arkham, he looks on in horror as it crumbles in around on itself, and Alfred panics from his new cell as the very ground beneath him in his new cell is cracking. Then it happens. All of Arkham Asylum falls into the sinkhole created by the Specter's actions. Batman barely catches himself from falling in, and he can't believe that hundreds of people just fell to their deaths potentially. There are survivors though. Batwing is one of them, but he's pinned and losing power. Just as Batman gets a radio from Batwing, and he starts to try and think of a plan, the GCPD appear on the scene and they tell Batman that he's under arrest. So Batman jumps into the sinkhole using a spiral pattern with a smoke grenade to cover his escape. And he reports to Penny 2 that he needs a map. He needs to know what's going on down there. Just as Joker's daughter is another survivor, ready to take a swing at him with dynamite strapped to her body. Another of the survivors begins to move around and he finds himself pinned. Alfred realizes that he's about to die as he hallucinates. When suddenly Bane lifts the rock off him. Maybe, but not here. All of Gotham's emergency services converge on the destroyed Arkham, leaving the city to fend for itself as they try to save the supervillains that are held there, only to find themselves having to fight against the supervillains as they now try to escape. Batman quickly disarms Joker's daughter as Penny 2 reports that Clayface, Victor Zsasz, and Mr. Freeze are trying to escape. Batman ignores the fact that the police want to arrest him again and he jumps out of the sinkhole to start fighting against the insanity of Arkham. Luckily, he has a few friends in the force who just can't seem to get clearance to shoot at the Bat. Batman makes quick work of the supervillains with Penny 2 keeping him informed of their locations. But back down below, Bane and Alfred have teamed up to try and escape together. But Alfred wants to know, why did Bane save him? You can still walk. And one look at you there and I knew you were ex-military. In a place like this, you are an asset, yes? They wander down a few tunnels, but they quickly find themselves under attack from the undead that survived. Back in Gotham, Stephanie Brown, now going by the name Spoiler, is trying to get out of Gotham. Someone just placed a $100 million reward on her head, and she needs to get away from here. But Hush sees her coming, and he grabs her off of the motorcycle. Back with Batman, he's finally dropped all of the supervillains, and he finds himself against the police once again. So Penny 2 tells him that she just got a read on Hush, and he's about to shoot someone. So she sends off a shockwave from the Batplane, and Batman makes his escape. As he begins to leave, Penny 2 informs him that she just found out that her father was in Arkham when it fell, but Batman reassures her. He saw Joker's daughter, which means that there are survivors, and Alfred is one of the toughest people that he knows. Beneath Arkham, Bane and Alfred are fighting against these undead beasts and winning. This actually isn't a problem for Alfred. He was Special Air Services in the British Army. He then leads Bane to a secret wall where Batman was keeping his spare supplies underneath Arkham, and he uses the gas that is in the wall to knock out Bane. He then walks in and reports in. Penny 1 here and well. Batman makes it just in time to rescue Spoiler and he pins Hush's guns to the wall. The fight is pretty evenly matched with both men beating on each other, but Batman gets some help in the form of Spoiler on a motorcycle as she literally runs into Hush with it. He throws a grenade at them trying to cover his escape, so Batman then heads back to Arkham Asylum where he finally rescues Batwing before it's too late. With his plan slightly derailed, Hush meets Jason Bard where he informs him to go. And he tells him that the attack is going to slightly change. They're gonna cut Batman off instead. Batman returns to the Batcave where he discovers Hush's latest plan. When Hush broke in, he got the report off of the Bat computer that states the location of every Batman emergency supply in the city. All of Batman's arsenal, all undeniably Batman's weapons, now at Hush's disposal. And Bard is giving a map with the location of all of Batman's supplies to Vicky Vale for her to report on. While that's going on, Gotham has ramped up its military presence, demanding all of the residents remain indoors as the streets are now closed. And then a tank explodes with an explosive batarang. Batman moves quickly. He needs to secure all of these caches before Hush can use all of the explosives in there. And Jason Bard can't believe what just happened. He tells Hush that this has gone too far. He's now injuring his own men. But Hush tells him that there's no backing out now. Batman finds himself under attack from the GCPD at every turn, so he has Penny 2 locking down the caches while he battles against the newest recruits in the GCPD. But while he's moving through and disarming them, Wayne Enterprises is holding a meeting where they decide that they need to vote out Bruce Wayne. Wayne Enterprises is attached to these attacks on Gotham because they funded the creation of Batman's weapons through the Batman Incorporated project. And the name on all of the paperwork is Bruce Wayne. Someone's going to take a fall for this. Batman has larger problems though. Penny 2 has run into Hush at one of the caches, and while he's amused that she's the prettiest of his partners, it doesn't take long for him to shoot her and then leave her for dead as he rigs the place to explode. Batman rushes there and finds that she's managed to escape into the sewers, but she isn't doing well. Hush then activates one of the alarms, calling Bruce Wayne out. So he heads over there after Alfred tries to convince him that Penny 2 should not be involved in this anymore. And Batman and Hush finally have their meeting. Hush is ready to confront Batman. As Batman enters the cache, Hush puts on the Batman armor and jumps in guns blazing. They battle it out. Punches, kicks, batarangs lodged into Hush's helmet. But in the end, Batman defeats Hush rather easily. He grabs him and he rips the bandages off of his face. "You're not a puzzle, a secret, or a whisper. This is who you are, Tommy," he says as he forces Hush to look at himself in the reflection. "You're not me. You never could be." Then a public announcement goes out that Wayne Enterprises has had its chief operating functions and holdings seized by the federal government. Realizing that things are going rather poorly for Wayne Enterprises, Batman reaches down to grab a note card that Hush had in his pocket and he dropped. He slowly picks up the note card and he reads it. "You have been cordially invited to partake in the devastation of Gotham City. Jim Gordon falls in precisely 2 weeks' time. The rest is up to you." Batman's eyes go wide in shock as he's also listening to the report that Wayne Enterprises is no more and dissolved. Bruce Wayne is effectively broke, and Hush wasn't the mastermind. Hush gets up on his knees. "Maybe you're right, Bruce. Maybe I'm not you. But right now, who would want to be?" Bruce Wayne meets with Lucius Fox in a random cafe in the middle of Gotham. "How bad is it, Lucius?" he asks. "I think you should cancel your next few ski trips, Mr. Wayne. All of your holdings have been seized. They even took Wayne Manor and turned it into a temporary holding facility for Arkham inmates. You are basically broke. Lucius, I need to know the status on the remnants of the R&D department in Batman Incorporated." The commissioner raided all of them. They have everything. Lucius then picks up the tab, and Bruce calls up Julia to check on things in the Batcave. She says that the concrete slabs are holding, and that none of the nut jobs should be getting into the cave. She then looks over at Hush, who's all locked up in a cell in the cave. As Lucius leaves the table, he warns Bruce of one more thing. "Let Batman know, Commissioner Bard also has me." That night, Bard is setting everything up. He has his trap prepared. It's time for the police to bring down Batman. He blows up 2 buildings that are literally just being blown up to draw out Batman. And then he looks down at Lucius Fox. "You'll let me know when he enters Gotham, right?" While across Gotham, Batman is racing into the city with Penny 2 in his ear. "You know this is a trap, right, Batman?" "Yes, Penny 2, but sometimes you need to prove someone doesn't have all of the cards by heading into their trap." "But what about someone that does have all the cards?" Just then, Jason Bard interrupts their call with his own. "Batman, this is the GCPD. Pull over now." But obviously, Batman ignores him. So Bard tells Lucius to lock down any systems that they can control on the Batmobile. "Oh, and Batman, remember that Wayne Tech ultra-heated wire mesh that your friend claims you couldn't get into your Batmobile without damaging it? I hope he wasn't lying." And at that moment, the ultra-heated wire mesh expands in front of the Batmobile, shredding the armor in the front side of it. "Shut the hell up!" They then eject the core that Batman uses to protect the systems of the Batmobile, and they gain full control of the Batmobile. "Are you ready to surrender, Batman?" "Let me think on that." "That's too bad." "What are you doing?" "I have control of your fancy Batmobile. You're like my little RC car. Hit the brakes and put on your fancy bat cuffs and we'll end this." "No!" Bard looks over at Lucius. "Hit the bat jets." "You could kill him!" So Bard walks over and hits it himself, forcing Batman to launch the jet propulsion system and go over the edge of one of the tallest bridges in Gotham. Batman goes crashing through the Wayne Enterprises building, driving through it. And then he realizes he only has so many buildings that he can drive through until he'll run out of buildings and come crashing down to the streets below. So he calls up Penny too. I need your help. They have control of the Batmobile, and the cockpit has been wielded shut by the wire mesh. But just as he's calling her, the Batmobile hits the end of the road, and it begins to plummet down into the streets. Penny 2 panics, trying to think of an answer. Anything! Alfred would have figured this out already. And then she thinks, Blue Rose. And boom! The Batmobile explodes as it hits the pavement. Bard pats himself on the back and leaves the cleanup job to the rest of the GCPD. While this was going on, Vicky Vale went on a mission of her own to discover who Bard is. What she found is that he was a normal cop with a partner, and due to a bad vigilante that was a kid, there was a bloodbath and his partner didn't survive. After that, he blamed people like Commissioner Gordon for allowing vigilantes like Batman to exist, leading to kids trying to be just like him. And that's when a doctor by the name of Thomas Elliot approached him. Vicky then called Bard to call him out and tell him that he was just too pathetic for her. But at the moment that Bard is answering the phone call, Batman sucker punches Bard. How? There was a safety protocol to get me out of the undercarriage. If it hadn't worked, I had 6 more ways out of the car. This is what you don't understand, Jason. I thought Hush had a gun to your head, but your men died. You put them there and they died. You have no regard for human life. Don't you dare! I'm doing this with the woman I love, the one that I lost to idiots trying to be you. There wasn't a single life lost for what I did. 3 stabbings, 8 shootings, and a young woman beaten to death by a mugging, all because the officers were busy trying to clean up the Batmobile. I'm sorry for your partner all of those years ago, but the deaths tonight are on you. Then Batman turns and walks away. Stop! Put your hands up, Bard says. I don't think he will, Batgirl says as she appears with both Red Robin and Red Hood. And then, with a little smoke, they all leave to go back to the Batcave, where they all welcome each other back home. Tim tells Batman that they only need to stop Bard and this will be over. But Batman informs him that Hush wasn't behind this, neither is Bard. Someone is still trying to get the nanotech virus out there, the one that infected Harper Rose's brother. And someone hired Falsario to use mind control on Gordon. And someone else was behind the destruction of Arkham Asylum, forcing them to turn Wayne Manor into a holding cell. Who was the man behind the entire plan, not just another one of the pawns? But while Batman is trying to figure it all out, so is the Riddler. And he thinks it's time that he helps Batman out just a little. Batman should have had this already. Meanwhile, across Gotham, Catwoman is starting to get used to her new job as a mob boss. But only assassins would stop trying to kill her. So she suits up and she meets up with Croc to offer him a chance for revenge. Meanwhile, the worst of Gotham's villains are forming up thanks to Scarecrow. It turns out that he isn't as dead as everyone thought he was. Since he traded his soul to Hell, he feels that he should get to lead this new band of Batman villains. While it does take some convincing, he does get everyone to at least temporarily listen to him. Selena turns on the bat signal and she calls on Batman. And at first he doesn't want to hear it. She sided with the gang, her gang, and once she did that, she became his enemy. So she tells him that they don't need to end it like this, and to make it up to him, she has all of Arkham's worst just waiting for him. Batman arrives at the location and he makes short work of every single one of Arkham's inmates. They never were a true problem for him, and it was made even easier by Selena's plan. You see, she arranged for Poison Ivy and Croc to work against Scarecrow, Freeze, Bane, and Clayface, then informed Batman of their location so that he could capture them all because she wanted to remove the freaks so that she could place her own individuals into their places. In her own words, it's time for Gotham to go back to its rightful masters. Meanwhile, across Gotham at Blackgate Gen Pop, Jim Gordon is getting a visitor. Jason Bard is there explaining the whole situation to him, that he was convinced to go along, and because of him, Gotham has become a war zone. Then because of him, Batman and his allies are hiding out instead of saving Gotham. He wants to fix this, he wants to make it right. But no one will listen to him any longer. He has no allies of his own. And Gordon tells him that he did the right thing by coming to him. Now the first thing that they need to do to fix this is get Gordon out of Blackgate, but do it by the book. Our villains aren't gone yet though. They're being hauled off to Blackgate, and the SWAT van carrying them takes a detour. As the back door opens, the guards inside find themselves being shot up by other SWAT guards. They are then escorted to a room where Cluemaster and his D-list supervillains are also being escorted, and Catwoman has been invited by invitation. Inside, a voice comes over a loudspeaker and it explains that they are now in a room with all of Bruce Wayne's seized Batman weapons and his money, and they're allowed to take it as long as they go to town on Gotham. While this is happening, Batman has gone to Riddler's location, high in the mountains. The Riddler left a clue all the way back in Arkham that he knows who is behind all of this, and Batman needs to know. So he accomplishes a simple riddle, and then he begins to throw Riddler around. He's exhausted, mentally and physically, and half mad as the Riddler puts it. Batman doesn't have time for games anymore. What's going on? You claim you know who is behind this? Now tell me, Riddler. But just then, as Batman is getting ready to bring the Riddler back to Gotham, explosions go off around them, creating an avalanche. The two men quickly become buried in the snow, but Batman knew what to do, and he's currently encased in the snow. He calls up Penny 2 to tell her what happened, but that he's a little preoccupied trying to get out. He'll be fine, but this is gonna take some time. While this is going on, all of the criminals are loading up on Batman's toys and his money, while Catwoman tells them that this isn't her style. She's out. She tells the punks here that this is pointless. She isn't going to listen to a mystery voice, and while they've been waiting for a payday like this, she's been making her own. She made her own life. She edged her way out of the Gotham Underground. And that's when the crooks decide Catwoman isn't with them. She's against them, and Firefly blows up her car. Back with Batman in the snow, he finally drags himself out and he grabs the Riddler. I'm taking you back to Gotham. But the Riddler pleads to not go back. We'll all die there, he says. So Batman asks him, who has you so scared? Don't be silly. I'm not scared. I'm being logical. When suddenly the ground beneath them gives way and both men fall down the cliff and into more snow. At the bottom, the Riddler gets up and he tries to run again, but Batman tells him, stop running! And that's when the Batjet rises up from the snow, which was conveniently right beneath the Riddler. We're going back to Gotham, Riddler. You'll never make me talk. I only led you here to make you think for yourself. Catwoman, of course, walks out of the warehouse unscathed. She knew to jump away, and she leaves the building telling Croc, one of her henchmen, this is gonna be bad. Meanwhile, Red Robin and Harper Row are hard at work on the location of the nanotech virus. Tim has been working on it since the beginning of this insanity, and he hasn't gotten any closer to figuring it out. It's a virus that's taking over the children of Gotham, and Harper Row's brother Cullen is included in this mass. It takes over their bodies and it turns them into drones for the virus, kinda like zombies. Well, Tim and Harper have tracked it down to a warehouse, where the droned people are building something. Spoiler, on the other hand, is still battling against everyone trying to take her in for her bounty. But as she begins to fight this new individual telling him that she's already dropped 6 lowlifes, he explains that he was hired to protect her, not take her in for the bounty, and he knocks her unconscious. Realizing that the nanotech virus situation is much worse than he originally thought, Tim calls for help from Red Hood, aka Jason Todd, and Batgirl. You want me to shoot a bunch of kids? Jason asks. No, what? That's not at all what I said, Tim tells him. Well, that's how it sounded to me, Jason says. Typical, Batgirl says, shrugging off Jason's comment. Harper corrects Jason though. We need you guys to clear out the nanotech zombies so that we can find the big boss man and shut this down. Where's Batman? Batgirl asks. He's dealing with the Riddler, and I trust Harper, Tim tells her. Fine, let me get my rubber bullets, Jason says, all sad. Tim and Batgirl jump in through the upper levels while Jason breaks down the front doors and he makes a mess, like he was supposed to. They quickly see that the nanotech zombies have been building a relay tower of sorts. Jason tries his best not to harm the kids while Batgirl is keeping things busy so Tim can jump up to the catwalk and discover the mastermind behind all of this, the Mad Hatter. You're the one behind all of this crazy tech, Tim exclaims. No, not behind. Oh, no, on top, where hats go. Gotham needs a new look, and I'm just the Hatter to give it to them. And leave it to you to find the creepiest way possible, Jason yells out. Dr. Falsario had a knockoff of your technology. We thought he stole your inventions, Tim tells him. You are correct, little bird. That horrible man only saw money in my work, but I do what I do to embrace the outcast, the sad, the lonely. The Hatter then hits a switch and things begin to get much worse inside of the warehouse, because he just took control of Jason. Batgirl realizes what's going on, that they are losing, and she yells at Tim to get out of the warehouse and save her and Jason, as she finds herself being turned into a nanotech zombie as well. But he can't get away fast enough, as the Hatter takes control of Tim as well, leaving Harper Row outside the building all by herself. She quickly escapes the area and goes back to her apartment. Harper is tired of being pushed to the side by all of these heroes. This is her brother, and she will help him. So she finally suits up as the newest superhero in Gotham, Bluebird. The Mad Hatter begins to march on Gotham with his nanotech zombie army in tow. But meanwhile, Spoiler wakes up with her outfit off in a nice and comfy bed, and her mother is standing in the doorway. This isn't good because her father is the clue master and her mother has been in on the plot to kill her this whole time. At least, that's what Stephanie thought. But as her mother tells her, she had no idea how far her father had gone, and if she did, she would have gotten Stephanie out of there sooner. Harper Row is now going by her superhero named Bluebird as she waits for the Mad Hatter to take most of his army out of the building. She then slips in to finish what Tim started. But it didn't take her long to find that there are still some nanotech zombies inside, and they definitely alerted the Hatter to her presence. He comes back in a hurry and begins to send zombies in to grab her, using Tim, Jason, and Batgirl to hold her down. He will infect her with the nanotech virus. But Bluebird is a tech girl, and she sees how he's controlling everything. It's all in the hat. So she takes a free moment to kick it off his head. Then using a gadget in her glove, she blows up everyone that's trying to hold her down, and she picks the hat up off the ground. There's a new hatter in town. She walks over, overloading the relay and destroying all of the nanotech virus, finally. The Hatter looks on in shock as his entire plan was foiled by the new girl on the block. Harper then runs over to her brother and embraces him because it's finally over. And that's when Batman finally arrives to grab the Hatter and demand to know, "Why are you here, Hatter?" But the Hatter explains, he was invited like everyone else. He has no idea who did it. He only got the instructions on a card to make Gotham hate Batman. Frustrated as always, Batman explains that he was following some of the nanotech teenagers, which is how he found this place. And he asks Tim how he found it. Tim points to Bluebird. Her. We're gonna need to talk about that. And then Batman leaves. Meanwhile, back with Stephanie. She walks out to the kitchen to find that her mother is tied to a chair, and Catwoman is standing there. My, you are a difficult person to find. Lucky for me, I like a challenge. Well, as it turns out, Catwoman was only looking for her, not for the bounty on her head, but for the information that warranted such a large bounty. She also knew that Batman would be coming for this girl eventually for some reason, so Catwoman leaves the underworld to think that Spoiler is here with her in her casino, while Batman brings Spoiler back to a safe house to be guarded by Bluebird and her brother Cullen. Bluebird agreed on the condition that Batman will train her for real, all the karate chops and eye-poking stuff. The weird part is though, Spoiler still wouldn't reveal what she knows to everyone, because she is seemingly afraid of Batman, and she wouldn't say why. So after a night of explaining the situation to Bluebird, she finally does reveal what she knows, what everyone has been hunting her down for. She knows who's been handing the money to her father, the man behind all of this. She saw Bruce Wayne, the man who funds Batman. Spoiler then gets up and begins to leave. With Bruce Wayne funding all of these Bat people, she isn't going to stay here. She's gonna stop him. But Bluebird tells her that she isn't leaving, and if she tries, she'll stun her. Spoiler won't be stopped from leaving, and they begin to fight it out. Meanwhile, the GCPD have finally gotten the name of the person who was doing the entire Arkham Asylum, dark arts, and then collapsing of the entire facility, Dr. Milo. Batman has his agents track down any more information on Dr. Milo, and they catch him just in time as he's attempting to leave Gotham through the airport. He is chased through the airport by the security until he flies out onto the runway where the Batjet hovers overhead and demands that he surrender or be neutralized. He panics and screams, "I surrender!" But the Batjet then shoots all of the drugs that he has in his pockets, and Batman jumps down to grab the man by the throat and demand to know what he did to Arkham. What did he do to the inmates? He explains that he did what the book said. It entwined magic and science, and it worked. It was a gift to him. So Batman demands to know, who gave it to you? And Dr. Milo explains. It was attached to the card he received. Then the spirits of the deceased seemingly rise from the ground and they surround Batman. "That man, your time has come," they exclaim. Dr. Milo holds his hands over his eyes. "Who are you? I didn't summon you! I can't look!" Batman looks in horror as the spirits around him are that of his mother and father, telling him that he couldn't help them, their poor baby. They tell him that he has desecrated their memory with his war on crime. While this is going on, the spirits are also crawling all over Dr. Milo, demanding to know why he gave them to Joker's daughter. She killed all of them. Then one of the spirits, which turns out to be a doctor of Arkham, appears and tells the others to leave Batman alone. They are here to get Dr. Milo. He made them into this. But as Batman runs over to Milo to save him from a heart attack, the GCPD arrive just in time to demand that Batman puts his hands over his head. Batman activates a flashbang off his belt and he disappears into the night with Dr. Milo. As they take off into the night, Batman calls up Jin Corrigan, again, the Specter, and he explains that all of this Arkham mess was because of Dr. Milo using a book, and he wants Corrigan to look at it. So Corrigan, Batwing, and Batman all get together in a cemetery that's considered hollow ground, just in case Corrigan needs it. Corrigan then finds out that Dr. Milo opened up a trapdoor of magic, one tailor-made to allow Blackfire out, tailor-made to make a hole into hell, and tailor-made to allow him to do all of these horrendous acts. But he went too far, and it eventually broke him mentally. Back with Spoiler and Bluebird, they have slightly resolved their differences. Spoiler is sitting on the bed telling Bluebird that she just can't trust her. She can't trust anyone. So Bluebird decides that she's going to ask Batman if they can just get Spoiler out of Gotham, and she sets up an automatic stun gun on Spoiler. If she moves, she'll be knocked out for quite a while. As Bluebird leaves, Spoiler can only say, well, damn. Back with Batman in the Batcave, he begins to look through who bought up all of Wayne Enterprises' companies and structured them in such a way that it looked like a signature. He then realizes who is devious enough and rich enough to snag up all of Wayne Enterprises semi-legally and gets that far unseen only to sign it. Who can bring the city to its knees? Who has the influence over all of these people in all these different types of walks of life? Ra's al Ghul. Batman arrives in Ra's al Ghul's current hideout, Karachi, only to be welcomed by one of Raz's tricks, a mist that is all around him. Ra's, where are you? Batman yells out. I believe the answer isn't where. The question is when. Look around you, detective. You see no walls or floors. I am nowhere, you are nowhere. We are not in a place. We are in the future. Your future. What do you see in your future, Batman? Do you become a remnant of a long dark era? Do you find a successor, maybe a student, or something worthy by blood? I present to you the question, Batman. Is Batman eternal? But Batman isn't tricked, and he reaches through the mist to knock the teeth out of Ebenezer Dark, one of Raz's lackeys. What's Raz playing at? I don't know. I do what he says and he lets me live, not unlike your relationship with him. Raz explains that this conspiracy is against the Bat, and it is not Ra's al Ghul's doing. He then opens up the doors in the back of the room, showing himself in a hospital bed on life support. He has been struggling with his recovery ever since Batman threw him into a ravine. Batman then takes his hand and slams it against the wall. No! There's no one else! It has to be you! Look in your heart. You know it isn't true, detective. No. Return and figure this out. Evolve, and then come ready to face me again. Juliet Pennyworth heads off into the city to answer the bat signal wearing a bat mask of her own. Selina, aka Catwoman, has called for Batman. She has shipping manifests coming through her gang, insane stuff being ordered by Gotham's worst. Someone gave them a blank check and they went crazy with it, and they are insane. There's about to be a battle between all of them to see who can claim Gotham first, and they're extremely competitive. Penny 2 goes back to the Batcave where she phones into Batman. A new piece of the shadow conspiracy against you is in play. A number of your villains are setting up, but Batman has a bit of a flight ahead of him as he's returning from Ra's al Ghul's hideout. So Penny 2 has dialed up the rest of the Bat family to begin looking. Batwing is handling Scarecrow and his Crow drones. Red Robin is handling Clayface in his attempt to become a star again. Bluebird is taking care of Mr. Freeze and his creepy frozen family in life. Batgirl is fighting against Joker's daughter, and Red Hood battles it out with Bane and his super armor. With the family preoccupied by each of Batman's villains, the power suddenly goes off in the Batcave, and Hush walks free without the electronic locks, and he ties a sick Alfred to a chair. He does this so that Alfred can watch his daughter being launched into the sky and away from the Batcave. She turns back to see Gotham is burning from the harbor. And just at that moment, Batman's Batplane automatically shuts down, as Hush now has control over the computer, and he's turned it off. Batman steers for an airfield where he has another crash landing. While this is going on, Jason Bard is finally doing the right thing by going to the mayor and demanding Jim Gordon's release. He explains that Gordon was framed and he has evidence to prove it, but the mayor refuses to listen and begins to go to the helipad where he intends to get out of Gotham. Bard stops him. If you want to flee, fine, but you aren't going to do it before signing this release form. But over at Blackgate, Gordon has much worse things to worry about as someone has knocked out all of the guards. They just released all of the prisoners of Blackgate. To make matters much worse for the Bat family, Hush stands in the center of the Batcave in awe at the power that he now has at his disposal. So while the Bat family is trying to battle their villains, he begins to tinker with the remote controls in their suits, making their battles even worse and cutting off all communications. But Julia isn't out of this fight yet as she drags herself to the harbor. And Batman, of course, didn't die in the plane crash, as he drags himself from the wreckage and begins to walk to the nearby Air Force airfield. He then steals a jet and spray paints IOU on the ground with a bat signal. He'll be getting back to Gotham soon enough. Over at Blackgate, the GCPD and Jason Bard are trying to get Gordon out, only to find that the whole facility is overrun by the inmates. But back at the Batcave, Alfred is finally done being sick as he gets out of the cell that Hush has put him in, and he cracks Hush over the head. We're done here, Tommy. With Alfred at the Bat computer controls again, the Bat family finally has their support again. But they also now have Batman there as he's finally gotten back to the city. He throws an entire jet at Bane, saving Red Hood, and then reports over the radio that he's coming to end this. Back at Blackgate, Penguin and Croc use this chance to escape from the prison, but Bart does get Gordon out finally, which was just the time that Batman needed to arrive where Batwing was battling Scarecrow, and Batman comes riding in on the Crow drones. He quickly removes the Scarecrow threat. He then goes to Bluebird where he electrocutes Mr. Freeze and he disables him. Then using Victor Freeze's freeze gun, he freezes Clayface and saves Red Robin. They then all head over to help Batgirl with Joker's daughter, but she's already beat up Joker's daughter. "You guys didn't seriously think that I would need help with this, did you?" she asks. And Tim tells her, "Show off." But while Batman is getting the family back together, Firefly has lit most of Gotham on fire. Batman cannot believe how far this has gone, and he punches the window. And that's when he turns back on his Cal communicator, and Julia explains that he received an invitation to the best seat in the house. If he's willing to meet up with the Bat Signal, he can see Gotham fall and see his failure. With no sleep for 36 hours and exhaustion setting in, Batman goes to Signal Tower to end this, while the Bat family goes out to rescue people in the fires. Batman arrives at the tower and he demands to know who was behind all of this. Who did this? The culprit launched stun lines at him, shocking him and forcing him down to his knees. And out steps Clue Master. You never did consider all the options. All you needed to do was follow the clues, Batman. Clue Master straps Batman to the Bat Signal and cuts the Bat Signal off of his chest with a razor. He then takes off Batman's shirt and he asks him, "Do you even remember my name after you stopped me all of those years ago?" "Arthur Brown, the Clue Master, a second-rate Riddler knockoff." "Shut up! The Riddler never got you this far, did he?" And then the Clue Master removes Batman's mask. "Ha! No wonder you have such an ego. Bruce Wayne is Batman? Your name is all over this city." "It doesn't matter now. Your allies have been slaughtered. Your city is burning. I have taken everything from you, piece by piece." And then he throws the cape and cowl off the side of the building. "We talk, you know, those who don't make your A-list. We have meetups and poker nights. I remember during one of Joker's big schemes, I made a joke. What if we struck right then when Batman was focused on one of the real baddies? We laughed about it, but I knew I was right. We could do anything while you were focused on one of the big baddies' puzzles. The reason no one does is we think that you're bigger than us. But you're not, are you? You're just a man. See, I created the illusion of a coordinated attack. So many people hate you that they came stumbling out of the woodwork to be involved. Alls I needed was some offhand hatter tech to get Gordon to pull the trigger, and it threw you off right from the start. Then I sent out invitations to the kind of people that would see this as an opportunity. It didn't matter what they did, big or small. They just needed to do something, and they certainly each took a different path. It made you look for someone behind everything, look for the big bad, and you were so focused on finding somebody worthy of a plot like this that you ignored the little stuff. The way the city was changing, the way we were preparing for the total chaos to take hold. You bought into your own legend, your own story. You thought there had to be someone worthy of you. But this whole time, Batman has been picking the locks on his own wrist, and he throws a left hook at the Clue Master. Meanwhile, back with Gordon and Bard, they're finally putting everything together. Riot shields, body armor, CCTV cameras, and an entire fleet of armored vehicles. They are going to take back Gotham. Batman begins to hit the Clue Master over and over, and then he throws him headfirst into a wall with the chains. "Bruce, this is really the end. I've had my fun, but I'm not going to play this game with you anymore." "Is that so?" "You can stop with the ridiculous voice, Bruce. You can't even stand up." And the Clue Master is right as he hits Bruce across the face, dropping him. Then he pulls out a gun. "I'm gonna shoot you." And that's when the Clue Master has his throat slit by an unknown assailant. No! Not according to plan. Our unknown person begins to approach Batman. "Your plan may be, Clue Master, but I've always had a plan of my own. Hello, brother. Are you ready to end this?" And we see that Lincoln Marsh has his own plans that he wants to enact. It turns out that when Clue Master wanted to start this plan, he arrived at the Harbor House on the Night of the Owls. The Night of the Owls is the night that Bruce Wayne's supposed brother killed the Court of the Owls and tried to take Gotham. Clue Master arrived at the Harbor House wanting money, resources, and power, and with it, he could do anything. But he was defeated when he saw the Court of the Owls was dead. But one man was still around that night. Lincoln Marsh, also going by the name Thomas Wayne Jr., and he funded Clue Master's entire operation. Lincoln Marsh now stands in front of Bruce Wayne, ready to bring his own plans to fruition. It really is sad. He actually was smarter than anyone gave him credit for. Not smart enough, mind you, but smart. He had this excellent plan relying on the fact that he was literally the last person you'd expect to put it together. But that's it. He was a nobody. He couldn't bring this to its end. Lincoln Marsh then lowers his mask, and using his jetpack, he grabs Bruce and he launches him into the sky. You see, brother, I already know that I'm a nobody. I come without a code name and without some colorful entourage. I'm wholly nothing, and you made me that, and I will return the favor. But Batman isn't done yet. He takes a shard of glass out of his own back, and he shoves it into the jetpack. No, I can't control, you bastard. And they both land into the nearby building. Meanwhile, across Gotham, the entire Bat family is saving the city. Batwing, Red Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood, all trying to save people. But Red Hood is about to meet his end as the building around him is crumbling, and Batgirl is trying to save him. But that's not all. Gordon, the GCPD, and even Catwoman and Croc are all coming up with plans to save Gotham. This has to end now. Brucey, Lincoln Marsh calls out. Your brother wants to come out and play. You aren't my brother, Lincoln. Bruce yells back as he takes the tattered remains of his costume and he makes a makeshift mask before grabbing a street sign and running in to finish this off. But Lincoln Marsh breaks the street sign and then opens fire on Batman. Batman dodges and grabs a car door, slamming it into Lincoln Marsh, telling him to shut up! But Batman is defeated. He's too tired, too exhausted, too injured. And Lincoln Marsh knows it as he grabs Batman by the throat. It's over, Bruce. You and I both know that I've won, and then I will slink back into the shadows with no one knowing what truly happened. Without your fortune, without your company, the names Batman and Wayne will disappear from the city, and I will have won. You will be a footnote, a strange deviation tied into these past few troubled years. But Batman will be done forever. But a voice comes over the loudspeaker with the bat signal on the television screens. Gotham City, I need you to listen. This is the former Commissioner Gordon, Jim Gordon, broadcasting on every street corner in Gotham. I know you're frightened right now, more frightened than you have ever been. Maybe that fear has pushed you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe it's just pushed you to hide away in some dark corner. But Gotham City is our city. And when hell is unleashed, we don't run and hide. It needs a city. It needs all of us. And that's when Talon arrives and saves Red Hood and Batgirl from a crumbling building. Talon? What the? Red Hood says. The lady in the cave. She put out a call to everyone. And that's when we see the extended family is arriving. Batwoman, Black Canary, and even Katana. Back with Batman and Lincoln Marsh, our villain is staring in disbelief. This can't be happening. And that's when Batman uses this opportunity to headbutt him, breaking his mask off. Then a bucket is thrown at him, throwing him off balance. Who the? It was actually Spoiler as she leaps in, punching him. Don't you recognize me? I'm Batman, she shouts. Looking up, Lincoln Marsh sees that he's defeated, as behind Batman stands everyone now. Everyone in the family. You're not very invisible now, are you, Lincoln? Batman says as Commissioner Gordon helps Batman back up. Lincoln Marsh vanishes into the tunnels below, and our story finally comes to a close. So what happened to everyone after this? Well, Jason Bard went right to Vicky Vale, and he offered to tell her everything that happened. She warned him that he'll be disgraced and never able to work for the GCPD again. But he doesn't mind. Gotham's known for hiring ex-police officers, aren't they? Catwoman and Croc, well, they continued to run their criminal organization. And while Batman isn't happy about that, because Catwoman has a lot to answer for, he'll deal with that on a later date. Jim Corrigan went back to his unit in the police, which is covered by another book, Gotham by Midnight. And he offered a spot on the team to Batwing before he went off on his own again. Jim Gordon and his daughter, Barbara Gordon, well, they finally got to have a quiet night at home. Jason, he was done in Gotham, and he had some friends waiting for him. He almost left Barbara a message so that they can pursue a possible relationship, but he changed his mind, and he told Roy Harper to come pick him up. Stephanie went to go stay with Harper and Cullen after all of this, and she seemingly trusts Red Robin, who came to check up on them. As she finally had her first official meeting with Red Robin, they shook hands, and then they looked into each other's eyes, because they saw something that might happen someday. Lincoln Marsh didn't get away. He did flee into the tunnels, but the Court of the Owls, they weren't gone, and they found their wandering Talon. They sealed him up and they told him, we might have a use for you again in a decade or two. And with everything finally done, the city went back to its beautiful black and blue sky, and Jim Gordon became commissioner again. Batman, who already fixed the Wayne Enterprises situation, getting back his money and resources, arrived at the bat signal, and Gordon told him about a plan the Scarecrow has enacted, something that is going to need Batman to stop it. It looks like the job for the Dark Knight never ends.
And there you have it, today's full story. I hope you guys enjoyed. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell right here on this channel, as it will only ever be receiving full stories from the other channel. And if you want to see the videos as they come out, make sure you go check out the Comicstorian main channel, where you get 5 days of videos a week. I'll see you next time.